Let's talk about the 5 things you can do to level up your slide deck before your next meeting. Welcome to video 3 in our series all about understanding and creating effective presentations in a business context. While we're talking about some quick wins in this video, we're also going to be discussing the strategic why, what, and how of crafting your slides in a way that helps you meet your business objectives. If you missed the first 2 series, be sure to check those out. Video 1 really lays the foundation for the 4 functions of a presentation, and video 2 talks all about common myths and mistakes that might be holding you back. Hi there, I'm Jamie, and I'm here to transform how you work. I'm the founder of Career Brilliance, a platform that helps people boost their business savvy and cross more things off their to-do list so they can fast-track their path to professional leadership and enjoy their work days more. If that sounds good to you, be sure to like this video and hit subscribe. Okay, so win number 1 for your slide deck is to make sure that every slide has a clear takeaway. Each slide that is in your presentation or your slide deck has a specific job, and it should be really obvious what that job is. As with all business communication, we have a specific goal for sharing information, and that often involves needing something from someone else, whether that is a decision or just an acknowledgement of receipt of information. It is our job to make it as easy as possible for the other person to do what it is that we want them to do. Along with that, people have limited time and attention. So if you make it easy for them to do what you want them to do, they're way more likely to do what you want them to do, and you're more likely to get the outcome that you want. So go through each one of your slides and ask yourself, if there is only one takeaway from this slide, what do I want it to be? And is that very, very obvious? For example, if you've got a status slide, the most important information from your status is, are you red, yellow, or green? Are you on track, at risk, or not on track? And if you are at risk or not on track, why and what is being done to get you back on track? Another example, if you need a decision to be made and you have a slide showing your 3 different options, is your recommendation very clear? And finally, if you are asking for an adjustment to the project management triangle, so maybe you need more time, more resources, or less scope in order to achieve your deadlines, is the specific ask really, really obvious? Okay, quick win number 2 is going to be to create an anchor slide. So a major function of slides, as we discussed in video 1, is to use as reference after the meeting is over. I always like to include at least one slide that gives a big picture view of whatever you're there to talk about, even if it doesn't cover everything in a ton of depth. So if you are in a status meeting, maybe you have a single slide that has every work stream's individual status on there. Or if you are rolling out a new process, maybe you have one slide that gives the high-level overview of the major steps in the process. After the meeting, this one visual, this one slide can be quickly and easily referenced. And again, you aren't trying to capture all of the detail here. That's what the meeting and the rest of the slides are for. This is just to create a slide that allows you to quickly reference the high-level, big picture view. Quick win number 3 is getting really intentional about how you're working with slides that have a lot of text on them. As we talked about in video 2, having lots of text on a slide is not necessarily a bad thing, but you do want to be strategic about presenting the information so that it's easier to pick out the relevant and most important information. So step 1 for a lot of people is to take a slide that has a lot of text on it and take it from a lot of words, a lot of sentences, and put that into bullet point format. That's a great first step. But sometimes you then end up with a lot of bullet points and you still need to take that one step further. There's 2 approaches that I really like when you find yourself in this situation. So let me grab my screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we have a slide where we've got our upcoming tasks, and this is a scenario where we've broken things into bullet points, but we just have a lot of bullet points here. And, all of these say the same thing, so we're able to kind of quickly glance at this and understand what's going on. But if each of these were something individual, then that would be really hard to look at this and parse out what's the most important and what's less important. However, because we are the ones making the slides, we can do some different things with this. First option that we can do is we can just create some visual separation. We can put in some additional structure around these bullet points to help visually separate out what we know are immediate priority tasks and secondary tasks. So this is kind of step number one is you have all of the same tasks listed out, but we've created some sort of visual separation. You can also do it like this. This gives just another variation of creating that structural separation. The other way that I like to do this, and this applies really in a scenario where you have bullet points that look more like this. So in our bullet points that we have here, there's kind of two pieces of this that are throwing a red flag for me. One, we have nested bullet points. Several layers of nested bullet points. So we've got our top level bullet point here. We've got kind of a secondary bullet point here. And then we have even a tertiary bullet point there. That means this list is really busy. And that is kind of giving me an indication that there's a better way to structure this information. The other thing that I'm noticing about this list is that we have repeating categories. So we have a task name here. We have an owner, due by, notes. Task name, owner, due by. That means we're recreating things a lot. And so my favorite way to then restructure bullet points is to throw this in a table. Here we have the same information. We have action item names, owner, due by, and then we have notes, which we have an embedded bullet point list inside of. So this just makes things a little bit clearer to be able to see it's all the same information, but it's structured in a way that's more digestible, easier to understand what's going on. You can kind of scan it. You can see, just the list of action items, just the list of owners, due by, and you can check the notes as well. Some bonus tips as you're making your table. I have had a few different mentors, bosses at different points. Make sure that I know, so I'm passing it along to you. When you're doing this, let me change my screen record real quick. So now you can see a little bit more of PowerPoint. So when you are creating a table, especially in PowerPoint, some different kind of pro tips in terms of formatting is to play with the alignment. So your header row, you almost always want that to be centered, bolded, some sort, you could also add, bolded line here, some sort of visual distinction between your header and your actual content. And then for your text as well, we love to have this little guy, which means that the text is not anchored to the top, which is that option. It's not anchored to the bottom, but it is nice and centered vertically within the table. So there's your little pro tip. It adds a little polish. It looks really nice. Okay, the next thing you're gonna do to level up your slides is to pick one visual structure per concept and stick to it. So we talked about this a little bit in our myths and mistakes, but let's cover it here as well. So we've got our milestones view where we have weeks across the top as our primary visual structure. We've got color-coded blocks, we've got weeks across the top. We're gonna use that as our standard visual for this concept. And we're gonna carry that over into our key tasks. So what this does is it creates continuity between our different visual structures, and you don't have to reorient, and your audience doesn't have to reorient to a new structure. So what you would not want to do is have your weeks 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then flip it and have weeks 1, 2, 3, 4 over here, or, introduce a completely different kind of going back here a completely different kind of key tasks structure. Not that that's wrong or bad, but if we're trying to level up, we want to add that extra level of polish, which would have this one visual structure, have that continuity across your slides. Okay, and our final quick win is what I'm going to call screenshot proofing your slides. So in general, your slides should not be viewed without the context of your narrative during the meeting, but sometimes this happens. Someone who's in the meeting takes a quick screenshot of a slide and sends it to someone else. So if you're really looking to level up your slides, go through each one with a critical eye to see if you are looking at the slide without any context, would there be any weird red flags? And if so, see what you can do about that. For example, I had a stakeholder one time who hated to see the term TBD, so the acronym for to be determined, on any slide. Like that was just not sufficient. There was more information that we had, and if we had that information, it needed to be on the slide in place of TBD. Like, what are you doing to have that be determined? By when will it be determined? Having just TBD on there would have caused issues, and we learned that very quickly. So something like that, and again, that's about kind of knowing your stakeholders and knowing what is going to throw a red flag for your audience. As we've talked about several times, if you've got some different options, you want to make sure that your recommendation is very clear right there on the slide. If you are raising a risk or an issue, you want to have really clear information about the details, the impact, and who is in charge of finding a resolution for that risk or issue. And we're going to talk about that a whole lot more in our deep dive video on the status update type of presentation, which is coming later in the series. Okay, so those are the 5 primary things to level up your slides before your next meeting. A couple of bonus ones because I can't help myself. 1, check spelling, grammar, formatting. You can do this. Obviously, spelling, grammar, that's basically built into all of your PowerPoint software these days. So just don't make silly mistakes. Formatting, you can get really, really particular about this, making sure that all of your headlines have the same font size, that you aren't using, different fonts in different places. All of your bullet points are aligned. There's a lot you can do here, and the more time that you spend on this, the more polished it's going to look. But going back to our very first video and talking about our primary principle for effective presentations is that you have to tailor it for your specific needs, for your audience, for your meeting objectives, and for your level of formality. So the amount of time that you spend really polishing it up and making sure every single thing is aligned and perfectly matching and exactly how it should be is going to depend on the type of scenario that you're getting ready for. And then the second bonus tip is that when you're sending out your presentation, which you totally should after your meeting, change it to a PDF format before you send it. So you are working on it within your PowerPoint software. You can go File, Save As, PDF, and then send it out in that format. That basically turns it into like a picture. And so you don't have to worry about formatting getting weird when someone goes and opens that in a different PowerPoint software. And also they can't go in and change things. So it preserves the content of your PowerPoint. And also if you happen to have any hidden slides in there or anything that's in like the presenter notes, all of that gets hidden when you change it to a PDF. All right, so those are the things that you're going to do before your next meeting to level up your slide deck so that you knock it out of the park. Coming up next in our series, we are going to do a deep dive into the 3 primary types of presentations that you're going to see in a project context. So an introduction or kickoff style deck, a status update, and also a decision-making deck. So stay tuned for those videos. I'll see you there.